And welcome to our tie-dye class today. We've got, we're going to be tie-dyeing with Fabric Creations, which is our fabric ink that you obviously can buy at Michael's. We've got Emma answering questions today, so if you have any questions or comments throughout our class today, make sure you put them in the comments and Emma can read them aloud, or she can type out the answer for you. But make sure you do that, because at the end of the class, we're going to be selecting a random winner from the comments to win $50 worth of Plaid products. So make sure you guys are commenting, letting us know what you think. Let us know if you are crafting at home with us. Like I said, ask any questions you want. We'd be happy to answer them. But I think we're going to get started.
Awesome.
First I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about this product. So like I said, this is Fabric Creations. So this is our fabric ink. So the best thing about Fabric Creations is that when you paint with it, it stays super, super soft. So I don't know if you can see this here, but it's so, so soft. So a lot of times when you paint with like a multi-surface paint or something like that, it stays kind of crunchy and hard, which is fine for decorative purposes. Like if you're painting a pillow or something like that, you might not mind. But if you're going to be wearing something, you want to make sure that it's so soft. You can see here, this is a t-shirt that we dyed. And you just heat set it, and then it's just as soft as before we dyed it. So that's one of my favorite things about Fabric Creations. So, of course, you can paint with Fabric Creations, but today we're going to be showing you a cool technique of how to dye with it. So we're going to be doing 2 t-shirts and 1 bandana, and I'll let you guys know what supplies we need. So, like I said, I've got a t-shirt here, and then I've also got another t-shirt and a bandana. We're going to be showing you 3 techniques, but you can do any of these techniques on any sort of white material, so don't worry about it. And then, like I said, we're going to be needing Fabric Creations. So we've got that here. I've also got some gloves. So it's going to get kind of messy. If you guys are used to dyeing, you know to have some rubber gloves on hand, but it does wash off your hands. So if you don't have gloves, you can be careful. Don't worry about that if you don't have gloves. I've got some water. Did you say something, Em?
Yeah, I just said it's not like regular dye, so it'll wash right off.
Yeah, exactly. When you're using regular dye, that's a great point. Like your hands will be stained forever. This is paint, so it'll wash off your hands. It's a water-based paint, so don't worry about it. And then I've also got rubber bands here that we're going to be using for our folds. And then I have some disposable aluminum pans, and I like to use these once I've folded my fabric to put in there to squirt the paint onto, and of course I'll show you how to do that. But it just catches the mess and it keeps it from getting all over my countertop. So if you've got like, you know, anything like this is fine. It doesn't have to be disposable. You can rinse it out when you're done, but I just keep disposable ones around because they're inexpensive. So I think that's all we've got for supplies. I want to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I'm going to start folding this t-shirt. So the first fold I want to show you guys is actually this one here that I showed you. So these are these cute stripes here. It's really trendy and it's really fun for summer. So we've got tons of colors to choose from, and I'm going to show you how we did it. So we've got the overhead. I've got my t-shirt here. And this is a t-shirt that I bought at Michael's. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold from the edge. You can fold it from either the left or the right, but I'm starting from the left. You fold this way, and then we're going to accordion fold it. So I'm going to flip it over and fold back the other way. Hopefully you guys can see that. You see how I flipped it over? And then we're going to do the same thing again. If you guys watched our shibori class a couple weeks ago, you'll definitely be familiar with this fold because this is a really common one for shibori. I'm going to turn it, and then we're going to flip it over again and fold it. And again, this is called an accordion fold for obvious reasons. It just looks just like an accordion. And that's how we are going to fold our t-shirt. So we just went from left to right in an accordion. So we went flip, flop, flip, flop. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab some rubber bands, and really any rubber bands will work for this. If you have smaller ones, you may just need to put it around it once. If you've got really stretchy rubber bands, you might want to put it around it a couple times, but any kind should work for this. So I'm going to take the edge of my shirt, and I'm going to slide my rubber band on. So this is how we're going to determine where we want our stripes to be, like this t-shirt that I showed you just a second ago. So I'm going to make 2 stripes, I think. So I'll make my first one, and then I am going to double it and wrap it around again. So you can slide it up as far as you want. Just keep in mind the top of the shirt is here. So however far you slide it up is where your first stripe is going to be. It's going to be the top of your first stripe.
So Jessie,
yeah.
Adrielle has a great question. So just depending on how many rubber bands you have and how many spaces you leave, that will be the amount of stripes that you create, right? So you can make as many stripes as you want.
Exactly. So we're going to put, this is going to sort of, this is going to separate where our colors are. So I'm going to put, this is the top of our first stripe, and then I'm going to put it here. I'll show you. I'll put the second rubber band on. It's a great question. And this is going to be the bottom of our first stripe. So here we've got one stripe. So we're going to squirt the fabric dye onto that, or I'm sorry, not the dye, the fabric ink onto that later. So that's a great question. This is going to be our first stripe. For our second stripe, I want to leave some white space between my stripes. So I'm going to put another rubber band here to start my next stripe. And you could go all the way up the shirt if you wanted to. If you wanted to do like full stripes all the way down. I just kind of like the look of the one behind me where it's just like two big bold stripes. It's kind of like retro looking to me. I thought that was really cute. Emma actually did that, our moderator today. So here is the first, is the top of our second stripe. And I'm going to put another rubber band here for the bottom of that. And it doesn't need to be super tight. You can see just enough so that it's keeping the fabric together, like sort of folded. You don't need to have it like super tight on the fabric. You want to make sure that it's not like loose, like it's not going to like move around or anything, but it's just nice and snug on there. So just to clarify, I've got one stripe here and then one stripe here. So if you wanted to do more stripes going up, that's just something to keep in mind. And then I have a space here because I want that to stay white. So that just gives you an idea of what kind of patterns you can make using this technique. You can, if you didn't want to have two rubber bands here, say we just had the one, we could put color here and color here, and they might just meet in the middle. So just keep that in mind for using colors that may get muddy together. Maybe do like a pink and a purple or a yellow and an orange because they'll blend together in the center.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah. So ours, we're going to keep ours separate today. So now that we've done that, I'm going to show you guys how to mix our Fabric Creations ink to turn it into sort of a dye consistency. So here I've got my orange Fabric Creations. This color is called Tangerine. And then what I have here is a squirt bottle. So it's sort of soft so that I can squirt it. And you can get this in like something similar to this, like the baking section of Michael's. I know that Wilton makes a bottle for frosting and things like that, but you can get these squirt bottles like this in a lot of places. So Michael's definitely sells something really similar to this, and that's where I usually get them. And then of course I have my water here. Don't forget to have some water. You can just have your sink, that's fine too, but I've got my water. So I'm going to open up my Fabric Creations, and I'm going to pour the whole bottle in today just because I usually make a big batch and then I save it. But you can keep in mind that a little bit kind of goes a long way for this. It's all about the ratio, which I'll explain in just a second. I'm going to put most of this bottle into here because I always put a cap on it and then I'll save it for future projects. It stays for quite a while in here as long as it's water sealed, or I'm sorry, not water sealed, as long as it's airtight. I think that's good.
So Jessie, Emily has a question. She wants to know why we're using Fabric Creations paint today. And one of the benefits that I love about Fabric Creations when you're using it to dye something is that when you fold it and then you dye it, you usually with regular tie-dye, you'd have to wait like a cure period for it to soak into the fibers. But with Fabric Creations, it's just so immediate. You unfold it and there you can see your totally saturated creation, which is really awesome.
It's instant gratification. That's a good point.
Yeah.
You don't have to let it soak. You don't have to let, because with dye, of course, you usually use like a natural cotton. And so the dye dyes the fibers of whatever it is that you're using. But Fabric Creations, you don't necessarily have to use natural fibers, which is kind of a benefit because it's paint, so it sits on top of the fibers. So it works right away. So that's a really good point, Emma. It's much quicker than dyeing, and it's much less messy than dyeing.
Yeah.
You can do it all on a tabletop. You don't have to like take the tarp outside and like get it in the bathtub and all of that. It's a really quick, simple way to get the same results.
Yeah, no staining the bathtub. Great for using with the little ones.
We have stained our bathtub many times,
yeah.
So we understand that.
Yeah.
But this is a really simple sort of solution for if you're looking for something really fun to do for yourself, with your kids for the summer. This is a much simpler and easier way to do it. So I've got my squirt bottle here, which is sort of like a frosting squirt bottle here. You can see it's got like a little nozzle on top. I don't think I showed you guys that. So just a little tip on top. And I've poured most of my 2-ounce bottle of Fabric Creations in. So the ratio for paint to water is 1 part paint and 2 parts water. So it doesn't matter how much paint you've put in your bottle. Like if you have a smaller bottle, it doesn't matter. If you just put a little bit less paint, you just want to have 1 part paint and 2 parts water. So if you wanted to measure it out, you totally can, but it's not an exact science, so don't stress about it. You can always put a little bit of water in at a time and sort of squirt it on a paper towel and see if you like that consistency, and then you can always add more water and shake it up.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna pour my water in. And again, you can go do this at the sink. I just have my water here so I can stay in front of you guys.
Jessie, someone has a question. They want to know if the shirt or the cloth needs to be washed before you paint it with Fabric Creations dye it.
I think it's always a good idea whenever you're doing any sort of crafts on fabric to wash it first if you can, and make sure you don't use any fabric softener or anything like that. But I have had success using this technique with Fabric Creations and not washing it beforehand, and it kind of works either way. So it's definitely a safe route to always wash it first, because if your fabric has like sizing or something in it when you first get it new, that'll wash that out. But like I said, sometimes I get lazy and I don't wash it beforehand, and I've never had it not work. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so we've put in 1 part paint and 2 parts water, that's the ratio, into our squirt bottle. And now I'm gonna shake it up. I'm actually gonna take this off and put my finger over it. And we wanna shake it really well until it's completely combined. That's important. You don't want any like clumps of paint in there, because that's gonna be darker, like darker spots when you go to like dye your fabric. So make sure it's really well combined.
Jessie, Glenda has a really great question. She wants to know if we need to do anything with the shirt after you use it with the paint. Like, do you need to heat set it, or need to wait?
So you do need to heat set it. You can just heat set it with a warm iron, like a low heat iron, or you can toss it into the dryer. But it is really important to make sure that before you put it in the dryer, your paint is super, super dry. Let it air dry overnight if you're going to heat set it that way, because it is easy to just toss it in there and let it tumble around for a little while, and that'll heat set it. But I've also made the mistake of putting my clothes into the dryer before they're perfectly dry, and then I have to go back with a baby wipe and wipe out all the paint that I just got in my dryer. So it's a really simple way to do it, especially if you're making a lot of projects, but just make sure that it's super, super dry before you try to heat set it in the dryer.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Okay, so I feel like we've got that mixed up enough. I am going to grab I have another little tray here. It's just another little disposable, just a little bit more shallow. I'm going to lay my fabric here, and I'm going to put my gloves on. I almost forgot. If you've got gloves, now's the time to put them on before we start getting messy. But again, don't worry, it's all water-based paint. So if you do get it on your hands, it'll wash right off with soap and water. Okay, so I've got my fabric that we folded, my t-shirt. I've got my mixed paint, and I've got my tray here. So first I'm gonna do this top stripe here. I'm gonna try to get as much surface area as I can. That's why I pulled it apart a little. And we're just gonna start by squirting our paint. You can see the consistency. It's almost like syrupy, but it's pretty watery. You can hear it when you shake it. It's pretty liquidy. So I'm gonna start by pouring my paint onto this one stripe. And I'm gonna be careful about where I put it because I wanna make sure it stays on that one stripe. And then you can even use your hands and sort of massage it into the fibers and make sure that it all is in there and it's all touching. And then I'm gonna flip it over and do the same thing on the back. I'm just making sure I've got it nice and saturated. You wanna make sure the paint gets through, you wanna make sure it's watery enough to penetrate the fibers. If it's too painty, it's just gonna kind of stay on top of the surface, and you wanna make sure that it's really liquidy so that it starts to bleed into the folded layers. And so if you can see, you can kind of open it up and see, oh, there's a bunch of white there, so I wanna make sure I put some more in and get it nice and orange. And so there's sort of two different ways to do this. So if you're somebody who dyes fabric a lot, you know that normally you need to wet your fabric first before you dye it, and that helps the dye to penetrate the fabric better. And that is one way to do this technique as well. You can wet it first and you'll get sort of like a blendier technique, but sometimes the colors run really fast when you're doing that. So if you're doing something like this, and if I had wet this t-shirt first, I would get a much softer, more blended result, except for my colors probably would be way more likely to bleed together. So if that's the look you're going for, then it can be really beautiful. I think actually that's the way this one was done. But I like a little bit more crisp lines, sort of like this one here. So that's why we didn't wet ours today.
Hey, Jessie, someone has a really great question. Are you able to make a gradient type of dye with this with Fabric Creations? Yeah,
that's a great idea. I bet you could. I think if you were to play around with how concentrated your paint was, I bet you could do something really cool with that idea. I have not tried that to do a gradient, like an ombre sort of look, but I love that idea. I hope that you do try it and post it and tag us so we can see how it turns out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's an awesome idea. We're gonna have to try that for the next one, Em.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna grab a baby wipe so I don't have to waste a pair of gloves. I always have baby wipes on hand whenever I'm crafting anything because it's just a really easy way to clean up wet paint. So instead of wasting another pair of gloves when I switch colors, because I don't want to keep touching it with my orange hands when I do the next color of stripe. So make sure I got most of that off. Okay, so I'm gonna put the orange aside, and let's do pink for our next stripe. So I've got this light pink color here. And again, I've already mixed it. So this is just another 1 part paint, 2 parts water. I just went ahead and mixed some more colors so you guys didn't have to wait around for me. And we're gonna do the same thing for this stripe here.
We'd love to know if you guys are crafting along with us today.
Yeah,
if you are,
let us know.
Comment section, that'd be awesome.
We hope you guys are. We hope you guys are having a relaxing Friday afternoon. We're glad that you're here watching us. We hope you're crafting, and if not, we hope that you're getting inspired to craft later.
Rita's crafting along with us.
Awesome! I can't wait to see your project. If you guys do end up posting any projects, make sure you tag us on Facebook at Plaid Crafts so we can see what you're doing. Facebook, Instagram. We want to see your projects. So again, I'm just pouring this in here and I'm sort of massaging it, making sure I've got it in all the layers. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to get the back side too. Okay, I really love this pink. It's like a really soft pastel pink. I think it's going to look really cool with that bright, bright, hot orange.
Hey, Jess, will you let us know the name of that pink color?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got it right here. It is called Carnation. I'm glad I looked because I was going to say hydrangea, but it's not. It's Carnation. That's the name of this pink.
Yeah.
And the orange was Tangerine. Oh, I think I said that already.
Very summery names. Very fitting.
Yeah, they are. Pretty appropriate.
So Jessie, Margot has a good question. Is the Fabric Creations, is it sold in a set or can you buy these 2-ounce bottles individually at Michael's?
Yeah, you can buy these individually. These are sold open stock, so you can buy each color separately. Yeah, there's a ton of colors at Michael's. They have a huge variety of colors. Pretty much all the colors here that I have are all available at Michael's. So make sure you can order them online, or you can do in-store pickup, or have some areas are even having Michael's is delivering to your home. So make sure you check out their selection online because they really do have a ton. Okay, so now guys, it's time for the grand reveal. Are you ready? So that's the best part about this is you don't need to let this sit overnight. Like Emma said, you don't have to wait for it to all penetrate like you would with dyes. We can go ahead and just open it up right now. try not to make a giant mess while I'm doing it. Sometimes when I'm opening it up like this, guys, if I'm really scared about like getting the like contaminating it and getting colors on each other, I'll just snip it with a pair of scissors if I'm not worried about wasting rubber bands. And that way I don't have to worry about like being careful when I'm touching the different colors, but I'm not feeling that particular today, so.
So Jess, someone has another really good question. Does the cloth of the t-shirt matter, like the type of cloth you're using?
Yeah, I think that whenever you're doing like fabric projects, that just like 100% cotton or like natural fibers always work best. But that is one of the benefits of using Fabric Creations over regular dye, is that it does not have to be. It can be any sort of fabric and it will stick to it. So this, obviously, it's just a plain t-shirt, so I'm pretty sure it's 100% cotton. But I've done like rayon and polyester dresses and stuff, and it sticks just as well. Like stretchy spandexy materials, this works really well on it. Okay, guys, so here it's time for the big reveal. I'm gonna hold it up.
Woohoo!
There, can you guys see?
That looks awesome.
So that's how you do this cute stripe technique. So you could see you could do stripes all the way up it. You could do stripes that are vertical. It's totally up to you. But yeah, that's the first fold.
Yeah, everyone loves it. It looks so good.
Yay! Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. So let's go ahead and let's try our second one. This is a really fun one. So set that aside. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab the bandana now. I'm gonna take my gloves off while I fold it. So this is a white bandana that I got at Michael's. I really love the idea of dyeing these bandanas that have the black pattern on them and then adding color. I think that's such a fun idea. You can see we have all these here that we've done. This is like a cool acid wash technique. And then we've got our bullseye rainbow. We've got like a big swirl here. So there's tons of different things you can do with these bandanas. We think they're so fun for summer. Pull your hair up, wrap it around your wrist. These are just a really awesome surface that Michael's has. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna open up my bandana. And again, this one's not, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, going back to the last project, someone has a great question. Do you get different results with more or less accordion folds? Like how many times do you fold it?
You know, I bet you would get different results. You can see here how it's like kind of broken up into like different segments. So I wonder if you would. I usually just kind of stick to like a 3 or 4 inch accordion fold. I haven't really experimented with it. It's just more manageable and I've kind of got similar results. But I do wonder if you'd like a really tight accordion fold, if that would make a difference. I'd love to know. So if you try it, please tag us.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. Okay, so for our bandana, I've just got it spread open here. So what we're gonna do is we're going to grab it in the middle, which is easy for a bandana because you can always tell exactly where the middle is because it has a pattern. So we're gonna grab it from the middle and I'm gonna put my fingers right here, grab from the middle, and I'm gonna pull it through my fingers like this. So you've got it like that. And I'm gonna hang on to it. And we are going to add rubber bands all the way up this section. So here, I'll show you one more time in case you just missed that. So I laid it out flat, completely open, sort of made my hand a C right in the center, and I'm gonna pull the fabric through it. Just like that. And now I'm gonna start putting rubber bands. I'm gonna put one rubber band right at the top. And I'm gonna wrap it a few times so it's nice and snug on there because there's not a lot of fabric up there. This is a big rubber band. Okay, so you want it to be pretty tight. And
so Jess,
go ahead.
Sorry. Mally has a question from the last project. What happens when you accidentally get orange paint on top of the pink paint? And I think that's what you're talking about in the beginning of all of this when you were talking about how you want to be mindful of what colors you choose in case they do blend together.
Exactly. Yeah, so if you mix orange and pink together, obviously it would still be really pretty and make like a coral color. But if you are concerned about like getting like a big glob of pink paint into the orange paint, just make sure you just keep your surface clear. And that tip about the scissors is really important for that too. So you saw how I was kind of picking it up and I was just being really careful by pulling rubber bands off, and I didn't really contaminate any of the colors, but you could just leave it in the tray and you could just snip the rubber bands off with scissors and that would kind of prevent you from having to be so careful. So they just pop up, and then you can just literally pull your shirt up, and you won't have to worry about any paint getting on each other. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so for our bandana, again, we pulled it through our hand, and I put a rubber band just right at the tip here, and I'm going to put another rubber band about 1.5 inches down from that one, maybe 2 inches. Let's do 2 inches. And then I'm going to keep going down. I'm going to put 2 inches about, I'm just eyeballing it, between each rubber band all the way down the bandana. And again, you don't have to make it like crazy tight, because the reason we put rubber bands when we're like really dyeing things is because it holds the fibers so tight that the dye can't even get into it. But since we're using these squirt bottles, we can be a little bit more strategic about where we put the paint. So it doesn't matter if it's quite as tight. You just don't want it to come apart. You want it to be held together in that shape. But we can control where we're putting the paint, so we can just make sure not to put it where the rubber bands are. That's another benefit of using Fabric Creations over real fabric dye. Okay. So you can see I've kind of put my rubber bands all the way down to the end. So I've got a bunch of sections here. It looks kind of like we did with our t-shirt. And we're gonna do a really fun, we're gonna do this rainbow bullseye. So this is one of my favorite bandanas that we've made. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do that technique. Let me grab my gloves again.
Everyone's excited. They love that rainbow bandana.
Yay, awesome. We love rainbows here at Plaid. We're kind of obsessed with them right now. We've been making so many rainbow projects just because they're full of hope and brightness, and we just love the colors. So I'm glad that you guys love rainbows too, because we are obsessed with them right now.
We're rainbow crazy over here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I've got another little clean or semi-clean, clean from today, reusable or disposable metal pan. And I'm gonna put my fabric in here. And again, I'm gonna do rainbow. So I'm gonna start with my red that, again, I've pre-mixed. So don't forget, it's 1 part paint and 2 parts water. And I'm gonna put that in this is gonna be the middle. So your little tip that we picked up in the middle, don't forget, that's the center. So you can kind of flip-flop your rainbow if you want the end of your rainbow to be in the middle, and you can have red on the outside or vice versa. But I'm gonna put my red in the middle. I'm gonna put some paint there. Oops, I got it clogged. And okay, so I'm going rogue a little bit here because I let my paint sit here too long. I don't have the caps on them. So that's why you want to make sure that it's airtight. So I'm just going to sort of very carefully pour my paint on here, which clearly you can do this as a technique. It's just a little messier. You don't have as much control over where the paint is going as you do with that little frosting tip. So let that be a lesson. Make sure you guys keep your paints airtight if you're gonna keep them around, which I should have learned my lesson by now, but clearly have not. So, but I can totally grab a pin and I'll just clear out that tip after the class today. So I can still use all that paint, no problem. Okay, for the second section, I've got my orange. Hopefully this one didn't dry out too. Nah, we're good. Oh, we mixed this from the beginning, never mind. So I'm gonna make sure I get into all the folds there, and I'm gonna go ahead and massage it. Try to massage the paint in as best I can. And you can see that I'm sort of just trying to stay away from where the rubber bands are. Make sure I got my hands nice and clean as I'm touching the white parts. So I'm sort of getting into the folds there with the tip of this little frosting squeeze bottle that we're using. So I can kind of hear that it's pretty saturated. I can hear that it's like almost sounds like soapy, like sudsy a little bit. So that's how I know that I'm really getting the paint into all those layers as I'm like massaging the paint in.
That's an awesome tip. You use all your is when you craft. Who knew?
Don't taste it. That's the only one you really should be doing. You can smell it, but don't taste it.
Yeah.
All right, so make sure, again, I'm keeping, you can just keep like a damp paper towel next to you because it'll totally wipe the paint off your gloves while it's still wet. But I've got baby wipes here, which are kind of like a go-to here. We always keep baby wipes around while we're crafting. Okay, so the next color, of course, is going to be yellow for our rainbow. And again, in case you guys are just joining us or just popping in, the ratio for the paint to water in these bottles is 1 part paint, 2 parts water, which is great too, because you can see that will make our paint go a long way. Like even in that t-shirt we did where I used a good bit of paint, I hardly use any paint out of that bottle. I could use that bottle over and over and over again and make so many more projects. So 1 bottle of paint, since we're watering it down a little bit, it really stays just as pigmented, but you can just use it for so many projects.
So Jessie, someone has a question, or someone really wants to see you do that top right project, the red, white, and blue one. But on Friday the 4th, we're going to have another tie-dye class, so maybe we can show people how to do that one then.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We should also do this this acid wash technique too. We can do both of those. So make sure you tune in. You say it's the 4th, Emma?
It is the 24th. It's a Friday.
Okay, the 24th. Okay, so make sure you guys come on the 24th. And we will absolutely do that technique for you. I don't think we're gonna have time to do it with the other planned ones we have today, but we would love to show you guys how we did that.
Yep, and just so everyone knows, after this live stream is over, in a little bit, this video will be available on michaels.com on their community classroom page for you to rewatch later.
Yeah, so if you guys are just watching now to get inspired and you maybe forget the ratio or forget some of the steps, you can totally go back on Michael's YouTube page too. They've got it there. And watch this over again to sort of refresh. Also, don't forget, guys, make sure you're commenting and asking questions because at the end of this, Emma is going to be selecting a random winner from the comments to win $50 worth of free Plaid products. So you can get tons and tons and tons of Plaid product with $50. So make sure you guys are commenting so you're entered to win that. So, of course, next in my rainbow is green. And this one's called Lime. This is one of my favorite of the colors. It's kind of like a citron-y color. I love this green. I'm having the same problem. Let this be a lesson to me, guys. I shouldn't have left my paint out before we started. Emma's probably shaking her head at me right now. She's like, you knew better than to do that. But that's okay. And don't forget, we can just clean out this tip. If this does happen to you guys at home, you can just take a pin or something and clean out the tip and oh, there we go. And it'll totally come right out of the tip and you can still use all of that paint. It won't be ruined.
Yeah, it's a great tip. Literally.
I got the clog out already, so we're good to go. Oops. I'm getting messy now. That's okay. So if you guys joined us for our Shibori live stream, it's way easier to keep things clean because you're only using blue. So you don't need to worry about any of the colors mixing together because it's just always blue.
Yeah.
So for tie-dye, it's fun because it's so colorful and there's so many colors, but you do need to be a little bit careful if you don't want your colors to get mixed together because it's pretty easy to do doing something like this. And again, I'm just making sure I get into all those folds because the more you get in here, the more full your color will be. If you miss a lot of the folds, that's okay because that's sort of like the nature of tie-dye and that's kind of what makes it look so cool. So you can see here, there's like a lot of white showing, which I do like, but the more paint you get in there and the more you get into those folds, the less white will be showing. So it's kind of up to you how you like it. Okay. Try to keep using my wipes. So make sure you guys, we've said it before, make sure you guys are letting us know if you're crafting along at home. We love to see your projects. We want to make sure you guys hold them up at the end too. We want to see everything that you're making today.
Yeah, definitely. So Jessie, some people have a question. If you add more water to the paint, will it make your colors lighter?
It will actually. If you really dilute it, you can make your colors lighter, which is kind of a cool look. It's kind of almost like watercolory look, which is cool. And also, obviously, your paint will go much further if you really water down your colors. But to get this, you can see how like still dark and concentrated that is. And think about it. This is 2 parts water and only 1 part paint. So that's a good bit of water that we put in there. And the colors are still really bright and saturated. But yeah, you can totally water it down if that's what that's kind of the look you prefer. We've done that before to get like much lighter looks, right, Emma? You've done that, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. You totally can do that. Okay, so I'm gonna try to finish this guy up. Just making sure I get into all these folds. We have tons of color.
Jessie, Margot has a good question. Can you mix the colors to kind of make your own colors and get different variations of different colors?
Yes, you can absolutely do that. So if you're feeling sort of risky, or if you feel really confident in the colors that you're mixing, you can just pour them into the bottle and then pour the water and shake it and see what you get. Or you can like sort of, you know, just use it like you're actually going to paint with it and mix it on like a little paper plate or something before and experiment and see how the colors look together. Because of course this is paint, so you can mix it just like you would normally mix paint. But we do that all the time. We love to add white to it too, to get like pastels to like sort of soften the colors. I think we did that with this one here, right, Anna?
Yeah, the red, white, and blue one. We definitely mixed white with our paints to get those really soft colors.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great idea. You can absolutely mix these. Michael's has a huge selection of colors, so honestly, you probably won't need to. I'd be willing to bet you could find a color you liked. But if not, if there's a really specific color you're looking for and it's not available, then absolutely mix. That's a great idea. Okay, this is our last one. I'm just gonna go crazy with the purple here all the way on the end. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I did not even count the sections. I just kind of like went with it and I was like, oh, we'll see how many colors we can get on here. And I have the exact amount of colors in the rainbow. So I'm pretty proud of myself because that was not well planned on my part. Yeah. I just kind of started putting rubber bands and I was like, we'll see how many colors we get. And we ended up getting all of them.
Don't you love that?
I do love that. A little bit of crafting luck today. Okay, so you can see I'm kind of resting this on the edge so it doesn't touch that paint in the bottom. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my gloves off for this part because my gloves are way dirtier than my hands are right now. I don't want to mess it up. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna put some fresh gloves on actually. Let us know where you guys are watching from. We'd love to hear where you guys are.
People are saying they think it looks so pretty, looks awesome, looks so beautiful.
Yay. Wait till you see it, the big reveal.
Yeah. We got some people from Pennsylvania, North Carolina.
Awesome. Welcome, guys. Will, do you have a pair of scissors nearby? Here, I think there's scissors in that cabinet right there. I've got my friend Will here working the camera. He's gonna grab me some scissors.
So Jessie, Angelina has a question, and we kind of talked about this earlier. She wants to know how long do you need for the colors to sit on the fabric? She said it didn't seem like you let it sit at all.
Yeah, we didn't let it sit at all. That's a great question. So if you are, maybe you're somebody who's used to like doing regular dyeing with fabric, when you usually need to let it sit for like, usually overnight, people say is the safest bet to really let that dye penetrate the fibers of your fabric. But since this is fabric paint, we don't need to wait for it to penetrate the fibers because it's just sitting on top of the fibers. So it is instantaneous. It's instant gratification when you're dyeing this way. You don't need to wait at all, which is kind of one of my favorite parts. You just do this and then you let it air dry and then you heat set it and you're good to go. Another thing too, guys, I didn't mention this, Fabric Creations is machine washable, which is awesome because our kind of motto here at Plaid is if you hand make it, you should hand wash it, which is just really a safe bet not to ruin your beautiful projects that you spend so much time on. that Fabric Creations is machine washable. So like these t-shirts behind me, these bandanas, we throw these all in the wash with our Tide or whatever it is that we use, and they will be completely fine. And they won't, the colors won't fade, the colors won't run. They'll stay right on there just how they were.
Jessie, Margot wants to know where you are crafting from today.
Yeah, we are located near Atlanta. So we are in the South. That's where our Plaid headquarters is. Okay, so you guys ready for the reveal?
Wow, that looks really good.
See how vibrant the colors are right away? We didn't let it wait. They're just super bright. Oh, let me turn it around. I'm showing you guys the back. There's the front.
That's better.
Yeah, so this is an awesome little accessory. You can use it to tie it in your hair. You can tie it around your wrist, use it as a bandana, but we love tie-dyeing these bandanas. And again, you can do this with a t-shirt. You can do this with pillowcases, with bed sheets. You can do this with so many different stuff. But yeah.
I know. I think I have to steal that bandana from my dog, Chester, Jessie.
I don't think he'd like that bandana. Chester doesn't love clothes. I don't think you're going to put it on him anyway.
I just might.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you guys like that one. Since we're talking about ideas of things you can do with this fabric, a lot of times we'll just dye like plain white fabric that's not a t-shirt or some sort of item already, and then you can use it to craft other projects. So you can see here on this lampshade, we actually just dye, or Fabric Creations dye some plain white fabric, and then we Mod Podged it onto that lampshade to make this really beautiful home decor piece. So not only can you make cool fashion clothes, but you can make really cool stuff for your home. You can do any of these techniques. You could even make pillows out of these bandanas, which I think is a great idea. They're already square, so you just sew them and get some pillow inserts from Michael's. But there's just, the possibilities are endless. You can do so many things with this.
Yeah.
Okay. How are we doing on time, Em?
I think we're good. I think we're doing good on time. We have about, it's 2:43. We have about a couple more minutes. But
perfect. We've got 15 minutes left. We got one more project to do.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. So this third one, we're gonna do another t-shirt. And I'm glad that you guys said you liked this one here, because we're doing a similar fold. I don't think I have these colors mixed right in front of me, but I can do these colors next time. But we're gonna do this really cool, super classic, like swirl tie-dye fold. So if you guys, a lot of you may have done this before if you're like really avid tie-dyers, but if not, I'm gonna show you how to do it, and it's much simpler than you may think. So I've got my t-shirt here. I lay it out flat, so whatever you've got, if it's a pillowcase or fabric, tea towel, whatever, just lay it out completely flat. I'm going to try to find the center. So wherever you want your swirl's center to be is where you're going to pinch it right now. So if you wanted this swirl to start up here and sort of spiral out from that area, you would do it there. If you wanted your swirl to start here and spiral out, then you would pinch it there, but I'm gonna do it in the center. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pinch my fabric in the center, and I've got the top layer and the bottom layer. I've got the underside of this t-shirt too. I've got both sides of the t-shirt in my fingers, and we're gonna start twisting it like this. So you can kind of, you may need to hold it as you go, but it kind of stays. Like the fabric's a little bit stiff, I guess. And so it's a little bit soft. I guess I should say it's soft. And so it stays where we put it. So you can see we're just twisting all of the fabric around where I have pinched it. So we're just twisting it around. And you want that, you see that nice swirl in the middle, you want that to stay. So I'm just gonna sort of manipulate it so that my fabric sort of swirls around that. And this is how we want it to stay. So should I do it one more time for people in case they missed it, Em?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So do it one more time just in case you weren't looking. Any questions?
Rayon had a great idea earlier. They said they wanted to know if you could tie-dye a piece of fabric and then sew it onto like a denim jacket, which I think would be a super cute idea.
I love that idea. Denim jackets are super trendy right now, especially like thrift store find and really vintage soft denim jackets. I think that is an incredible idea, and I really want to see it. So if you do it, please tag us, because that sounds so, so, so cute, especially if we did the rainbow in the swirl. I think that'd be so adorable. Okay, so again, wherever you want your swirl to begin, wherever you want the center to be is where you're going to start pinching. And I'm gonna start pinching in the center because that's where I want my swirl to start. So I'm gonna pinch it in the middle and I'm gonna start twisting it. I'm gonna twist it just like if you were like cranking up a toy or something. You're gonna twist it all the way around. And it kind of, like I said, the fabric kind of stays where you put it because it's so soft. I'm gonna start over because I kind of lost my place. So again, I'm grabbing both sides and I'm gonna twist. Twist. It kind of looks like a flower, like a rose or something. You want to hang on to it and you want to start wrapping this fabric all the way around. It's kind of awkward around the edges because we're doing a t-shirt, but we do want to make sure that it all stays in our swirl. And we want to make sure that it keeps going around where we started our twist. So you can see there, it kind of looks like a rose or something. So you want to hang on to that. You don't want to let it open up too much. Kind of keep your hand on it. And we're going to start wrapping rubber bands around it to hold it in place. So here, we're going to lift it carefully. We don't want to lose our shape. So it's kind of like a cinnamon bun. You can kind of squish it just for now while we start wrapping, and then it'll kind of, it'll undo itself, so don't worry. Just wrapping rubber bands, hold it in place. Like this one may snap on me. Nope, we're good. So you can see I still got my swirl there. And I'm gonna wrap another one going in the other direction. Let me see if I can find a thicker rubber band in here. Kind of got like a variety pack here. So again, I'm making sure that everything stays in my swirl. And you can do as many rubber bands as you feel like you need to hold all of your fabric in the right place, to hold it all in that swirl that we made. See that right there? It looks like a cinnamon bun. It's a perfect swirl. That's what we want. So I'm going to put a couple more just to hold it together.
Jesse, Mark, question, are these rubber bands going to leave negative spaces in the paint, or will it seep under it?
Great question. So when you're dyeing, the dye would probably seep under it. So for us, since we have sort of the benefit of controlling exactly where the fabric ink goes, it's up to you. You can squirt it under these rubber bands and it will probably saturate that area, or you can avoid the rubber bands and make a pattern. So it's kind of your choice, which is a great part. You can have complete control over this. Whenever you're doing like real tie-dye with actual dye, it's kind of like you can control it to a degree, and then kind of what happens is what happens. It's kind of a mystery of how it's going to turn out. So with this one, you have a little bit more control, which I think a lot of crafters enjoy, having a little bit more control. I know I do. I don't really like surprise crafting is what I call it. I like to know how my project is going to turn out. So it's, like I said, to answer your question, it is up to you. You can go around the rubber bands and let them create negative space, or you can squirt right along the rubber bands and they will seep underneath. So hopefully that answered your question. Now for the dyeing, I'm gonna go ahead and put my gloves back on. So for this, it's really cool. So if you guys have ever seen those like rainbow swirl tie-dye shirts, they usually do, they put the dye on it and so they like pour the dye on in slices, sort of like a pie. And so that will give you lots of colors. I'm just gonna do 2 colors. So you can see this one here that you guys liked is just pink, and then this pretty blue color. So we're just gonna do 2 colors today to show you how we did that one. And since we're only doing 2 colors, we're just gonna split it in half. One side is gonna be one color, and then the other side is gonna be the other color. And however much you leave in the middle is going to be a white stripe. So you can see here how this swirl has like a white swirl going through it. That's because we left a big gap in the middle between the blue and the pink. So let's see, what colors should we do? Let's do, how about yellow and, or I'm sorry, green and yellow. I think that would be pretty. So let me grab my little tin here. I'm gonna start by putting dye, or I'm sorry, fabric ink. I keep calling it dye because it feels like I'm tie-dyeing, but it's really fabric ink. So you're gonna put fabric ink on half of it. So I'm gonna start by just generously putting fabric ink on it. And I know a lot of you guys are gonna ask already, well, can you just dip it? And you absolutely could. So if you have like a big bowl of the watered down paint, you could just dip it, but that really would take up a lot of paint. And we wanna save our paint, of course, because you want to make sure that we can use it for our other projects. We wanna use it sparingly so that we only use as much as we need. So if you were gonna do it in like a big vat or something and dip your project, you totally could, but it would take up way more paint than you really need. So again, I'm just massaging it. I'm making sure I'm keeping it only on half. I'm massaging it into the fold, making sure I get it all into it, just like we did for the other ones. Trying to be careful to only do it on half. And since this is such a big piece of fabric and it's folded so tightly, unlike the other ones, we really want to make sure we get a lot of fabric ink on there, because you're going to feel like you got it saturated, and then you're going to open it up and there's going to be hardly any fabric ink. I promise. It happens to me all the time. I'm like, yeah, that feels really saturated. Like, yeah, that's totally good. And then I open it up and I'm like, it's completely white. What was I thinking? So I would just suggest, especially for this technique, to just put way more than you think you need. Really just squeeze it into all of the folds of the fabric, because you can see hardly any is getting wasted. There's very little in the pan. It's all going onto our fabric, which is another benefit of this. You don't have to waste all that vat of dye. If you run out of fabric and you have all that dye left, it doesn't really keep. So this does keep. Make sure you leave it airtight and you can keep it around for quite a while to keep doing projects. How's everybody doing? Any questions?
Awesome. Someone wants to know if you can show them the Fabric Creations bottle, but I didn't know if now was a good time to ask you while you're on the web.
Well, thanks for thinking of me, but here it is.
Yeah.
Here, I'll put it right there for you guys so you can see what it
You
looks
know
like.
what to look for. Yep.
Yeah, that's Fabric Creations. And again, you can get that at Michael's. You can get it in store or online. So they have a ton of colors you can choose from. It's called Fabric Creations Soft Fabric Ink. Yeah, it's one of my favorite products. It's awesome. And like I said, it dries super soft. It is machine washable. Just make sure you heat set it first with a hot iron, or make sure you don't use any steam. So a dry iron, I should say. Or you can put it into the dryer. Just make sure it's completely dry before you do that, or else, like I said, you'll end up like me. I'm always learning the hard way, and you will have to wipe out all of that paint that you got in your dryer using a baby wipe, which is harder than it sounds. But
S has a really good question. Could you do this with only one color but not fill it completely, so it has a mix of white and one color?
Yes, 100%. You could even just do half like I've done here and just leave it at that, and then the other half will be white. So this would be like a giant yellow spiral through the whole t-shirt, which would be really cool. So I feel like I'm doing okay. I feel like I'm getting a good bit in there. Again,
some people are wondering if Fabric Creations is a good paint to just paint regular designs on fabric.
Yes, it is. I love painting designs. We do that all the time here at Plaid, because again, first and foremost, this is just a fabric paint. This was designed to paint with a brush on fabric. You can do decorative painting. We've done splatters. It paints really beautifully. It's really fluid with the brush, which I feel like is not super common for fabric paint. Sometimes it kind of drags and it's hard to paint like you would normally paint on a canvas. But this is super smooth. It's it just drags beautifully across fabric with a paintbrush. But we have just done this really cool way of dyeing with it. So we just sort of were thinking about it one day and experimented, and so that's why we're dyeing with it today. But you can absolutely just paint with it. I'm gonna get a new glove. I ran out of baby wipes, so I'm gonna change just my one glove because it's super dirty. I don't want to get my colors all mixed up. Any more questions?
Not so much. People are really excited for the finished result. Me too.
Awesome, yay. Okay, so let's do this side. We're gonna do green on this side. So again, this is one of my favorite of the colors. I just love this bright green. This is gonna kind of remind me of like a lemon lime or something. I love it. I love these colors together. So you can see I'm kind of leaving some white in the middle. You could probably blend these together just like they're doing in the pan already, and they'd probably look really pretty, but it's up to you. If you want a little bit more white in your design, you can leave some white in the middle. If you want to have it completely colorful, you could just make sure you could just blend those two together in the middle. It's totally up to you.
So Jessie, Susan wants to know, how long will the leftover dye last?
Yeah, so if you leave it in the bottle, like a dry, like airtight. I did put Yeah, make sure you leave it in an airtight container, and it will last for a pretty long time. I would say at least several weeks. That's been my experience anyway.
Me too.
Yeah, it'll last for quite a while. Making a mess here, y'all. You can see here, I did not put my cap on. These particular bottles come with little caps that you put on top, and you want to make sure that you really keep those on there to keep the air out, because I keep getting a little bit of a clog in there, but that's because I didn't put my cap on this morning. Oh, there we go. I got the clog out. And so it's just drying in the tip, but the paint inside is still really fresh. You can see you just need to get that clog out of the tip using like a pin or a toothpick or something like that. But yeah, just make sure you keep it airtight, and it should last for quite a while.
So Jessie, someone wants to know, and I think this is a great question, does it matter what type of water you use, if you use tap water or distilled water?
That's a really good question, because I know a lot of crafts ask you to use distilled water just for, you know, to keep all of the extra things out of there that you kind of don't know how it's going to affect your project. But for this one, you can use any water. I just always use tap water. I always use water from our sink, and I've never, ever had a problem. Okay. So I think I'm going to leave that. I think I want a little bit of white in my green, so I'm not going to put quite as much on there. And I'm going to go ahead again. I'm going to take my gloves off because I'm making such a giant mess. But again, if you guys don't have gloves at home and your hands are getting really messy, they can just wash off with soap and water. So don't stress. It's completely water-based, so you don't have to worry about getting it on your hands if that's what you're doing at home.
And Jessie, will you remind us of the colors you use, that your yellow and green color?
Yes. So this green is called lime, and then the yellow I'm using is real yellow.
Awesome.
So let's see the big reveal. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to snip them off. Snip off my rubber bands. I'm hoping I got a really good swirl. That's the goal. Oh, cool. So you can see here, we have a nice swirl. See how I told you that you always get more white than you think you're going to get. So make sure you put tons of paint on there. But I love the way that turned out. I like the white.
That looks awesome.
It reminds me of like lemon lime or something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's the swirl, guys. As you guys requested, we will do in our next tie-dye class, keep an eye out for it, we will do some more bandanas, and we'll show you how to do these colors here in front of me. But I really hope that you enjoyed all those techniques. We had so much fun teaching you. We love tie-dyeing here, and we love fabric creation, so make sure you get some and make sure you try it for yourself. And keep an eye out for our next classes coming up on Michaels.com. We're so grateful to be working with Michaels. We are so grateful to be to have the opportunity to teach you guys and to craft with you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll just let you guys know our next Michaels class is going to be a Let's Paint with Plaid, where Kirsten Jones will be painting some really gorgeous floral blooms. And then after that, on the 14th, we'll be having an awesome chalk paint class, which I'm super excited for.
Yeah, that's going to be great. We're going to show you tons of techniques using our folk art home decor chalk paint, probably ones you've never tried before. So if you're a furniture flipper, or if you just like making little items for your home, make sure you tune in for that chalk painting class, because you're going to learn a lot from one of our serious experts here at Plaid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, Emma, it's time to pick a winner.
I think so too. So we're going to randomly pick a winner. Drum roll. Okay. And our winner today is Lena Gutierrez. So Lena, if you want to go to the page at Plaid Crafts and just send us a message, and we'll get your info and we'll send you your gift basket.
Yeah, make sure Plaid Crafts Facebook page, direct message us, and we will get your contact info. Congratulations. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you at the next class.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.